Morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is cruising. When things are going well, it's easy to just sort of relax into that ease and maybe suspend our committed inquiries into self-development and improvement. But we're going to talk about how we can use those moments of ease and comfort to make our growth process more even more developed. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But good morning, Rosalind. Welcome. So good to have you here with us, and welcome to everybody else who's joining us. Let's take a minute or two to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And this time, imagine brilliant, bright light, lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, all your molecules, your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together. Vigorously rub your hands together to feel the pressure, the motion, the tension, all the sensations, including the tickling and tingling when you stop. And allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables you to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So it's great to be here with you, and we're talking about cruising. And so in my Core Connection transformational coaching practice, I have people come for a three-month cohort, and then we take a month off, and then we do another 3 months if people want to continue. And a phenomena that I've seen happen is that people are in a good space, which is awesome. It's awesome when people are doing well. And when they're in a good space, they kind of, oh, good morning, good evening, Gia, welcome. Great to have you here with us this morning. So when things are going well, we tend to, I don't know if get complacent is the best way to say it, but we tend to not want to rock the boat. You know, it's when things are going nicely and we feel great, why would we want to stir up things to work on, to address, to, to potentially go into a space of discomfort when it's a whole lot more pleasant to just cruise, right? Rather than digging for things to clear or address. And so this came up yesterday with a client who, has shown up lately and said, things are going great. And, I'm feeling happy, feeling comfortable. And it's like, okay, great, that's good. And here you are in this opportunity of a lifetime to really heal these deep-seated things that are operating. And so this is also really interesting. People say, well, the big stuff's handled, right? The big stuff's handled. And so what arises, or what has become really apparent to me, is that the stuff that is handled, the superficial stuff, is just that, superficial stuff. That there is this undercurrent of not circumstances, but tones, issues, we'll say, that remain, that have been kind of ever present, so ever present that we don't even notice that they're there anymore, because we've lived with them for so long, and they have been such a constant that we don't even notice them. And these are not subtle things. These are not little things. These are way more profound things because they're so pervasive, but we don't even notice them because they have been so constant in our lives. And so this was so fascinating, right? Because here's somebody saying, everything's good, I'm good. I'm, like, I'm not even sure what I'm doing here, what I'm going to be talking to you about, what we're doing today. And so we started talking and looking at the triggers. So this is one of the things that I say to people is bring the ugly, like bring the things that were triggering, bring the things that created even a small blip, because those things are coming up as clues to what else is going on. And so this person was telling me about an altercation, a brief altercation upset that they had, and they were able to resolve it within 10 minutes. And they felt like, well, I was able to resolve it, and then things were all good. And we got into having a conversation around the distinction between being able to resolve something, being able to find a place of peace around something, to clear it up, the altercation, the distinction between that and what the root cause was. Because the root cause wasn't addressed. What was addressed was the upset, was the symptom. And so we started looking at what the root cause was. And there were deep, deep, deep feelings of not being able to trust themselves, of not being good enough. And it was so deep and so pervasive, so constant, that it wasn't even noticed. And it was so interesting, in the face of talking first about digging deeply, the person was saying, to what end? Why bother? Why do that? And it just cracked me up so completely, because this person is constantly seeking knowledge and wisdom through reading all these wonderful books and seeking insight. And then it was here to confront the under the surface terrain that could be disruptive, that could be life-changing, to shift that, to heal that. And they were like, well, why would I want to do that? And, we are such funny beings. We are such funny beings that here on the surface, as long as we can move ahead and operate our lives with some semblance of ease and peace, we are quite happy to walk around the elephant in the room without even noticing that it's there. because we've gotten so acclimated to it being there. We don't even see it as an elephant anymore. It's just, this is how we get from here to there, is by going around this thing. We just, it never even occurs to us that that thing doesn't need to be there. And then when we start talking about, hey, you know, there's this thing that maybe you want to take a look at, then it's like, why would I want to see that thing? You know, why would I, here's something that I've spent my life walking around. Why would I want to change that? And it's this deep fear that shows up for people rather than curiosity. I think probably because there's an attachment to believing ourselves to be a certain way, you know, believing ourselves to be evolved, or believing ourselves to be solid and stable, and it's not that we're not. It's just, why not in our pursuit of wisdom, understanding, knowledge, in the face of all of that, why not, rather than judgment, rather than judging ourselves inadequate for having these foibles and these quirks or dysfunctions, why, rather than judgment, why not approach that with curiosity, to say, oh my gosh, how interesting is this? You know, look at what's here. Look at these things that are all wired up together. Look at how this is showing up in my life. Why do we do this? Why do we do personal growth and transformation? For freedom, to become a fuller expression of what we came here to be, to move into our greater realization, to move into expression of our greater potentials, just to be realized as what we came here to be, self-expression, the fuller expression of life that we can be. And if we can observe ourselves with curiosity and wonder, there's such richness available to just notice how curious we are. Curious meaning strange in a way. You know, we're just filled with all kinds of contradictions and weird associations and all kinds of strange behaviors and patterns, and what would it be to be free of the bounds, the binds, the tethers to these jumbled up relationships that we draw between different ideas, behaviors, experiences, how we carry our past. Not only carry it, we don't just carry it on our back. We take our past and we project it in front of us so that we then continue moving into that. And the idea ultimately, I think, is to be freeing ourselves of that past so that we can move into this moment and the next moment and the next moment with a sense of discovery and vitality and possibility that doesn't exist when we take our past and put it in front of us and try to step out of it into it, which is such a bizarro thing that we do, right? Like, we keep recreating it, we carry it forward. And I guess the question then arises, if we are not carrying our past forward, how do we learn from the past? How do we learn from our experience without carrying the past forward? I think that that's a really good question to sit with. I don't have an answer. But I do believe that if we can recognize where we're carrying our past forward, or if we can be discerning about the lessons of our past that are expansive rather than contractive, rather than constricting, and then step into a new moment. If we can find a way to do that, that is something that's life affirming. Yeah, I think that's a really good question, is how do we learn from the past without projecting the past forward? And how do we learn from the past in a way that frees us from the past? That's a really valuable inquiry, I think. Don't know where it goes. Maybe what we get to do is to say, in the moment, am I being present? Am I being present? If I'm being present, then I should be able to be receiving the broader expanse of information. One of the things that I notice is that the world changes very radically based on our focus. So if our focus is very narrow, looking at just this incident, this moment, this interaction, and being engaged in that level of attention that is narrowly directed, the experience and the perception and the awareness is vastly different from the awareness that we would be able to have if we are broadening our focus, if we're able to expand our perspective to include a bigger picture. All of a sudden, things look very different. The excuse me, the meaning that we make changes radically when we're able to see things in a greater context. When we can see a reaction in a greater context that includes all these other factors that influence that reaction. When we can stand back, there's a very different perception that's available to us based on a greater context. So context really defines an experience. It's interesting to me. I have a client who has been going through a very very toxic relationship. And the thing about this relationship, part of what makes it so toxic is that it's not completely toxic, in that there are many aspects of the relationship that are really fulfilling and delightful. And there are other aspects of the relationship that are torturous and excruciating and manipulative and divisive. And this person is teaching me in many ways. This person is very founded in love, and that's been a big source of their pain. And they had an insistence on staying in and present to that love even in the face of the agony that it was creating, rather than moving into anger for the injustices that were done in the context of this relationship, the betrayals, the lying, the manipulations. And I could see where anger would have been a friend to this person in that space. And instead they chose to step more deeply into love, which was in greater alignment to who they are, to just be able to be this loving presence at the same time as feeling like their heart was being ripped to shreds. So there was, it was such a powerful thing to witness. I don't know that ultimately it serves this person. Sometimes anger can serve us, that to give us the distance. And yet here there was their commitment to being loving. It was just really, really powerful. And yeah, I'm not really sure why I went off in that direction, other than to say that I was so profoundly moved that we're very different people. We can be very different people. So let's see. So Rosalind says, an attachment to anything being permanent is like clutching to water. You're such a poet, Rosalind. I love that. I love that. Water changes its form. The continuous study of life is like seeing different relationships with water. The inquiry will lead into richness and deeper beauty. I agree 100%. It's like when the waters are still on the surface, there's all kinds of stuff still going on underneath. And that's what we're maybe we could have called this diving into still waters, maybe because there's still stuff going on underneath. And Rosalind says, so the inquiry for today is asking how to project forward. I missed the question. No, it's not how to project forward. It's talking about when there's a temptation to allow things to just be fine, to be cruising along, things are fine, and not looking, but to take those opportunities, even when things are are pretty smooth on the surface, to take the opportunity to be looking and digging a bit more deeply, to still be engaged in our inquiry and curiosity about what is going on. When things are smooth, we tend not to be doing personal development. We tend to do personal development when we're in pain because we want to fix it. But when we're fine, when everything seems fine, is a really good time to be doing personal development work, because we have that stability that then gives us the strength and the balance to be able to dive more deeply and see what's there. Below the surface, below the still surface of the water, there can be all kinds of turbulence going on, that we get so immunized to the major currents that are flowing through our lives, influencing, impacting everything, that we don't even see it because we've been acclimated to it. And so what I'm talking about is when there are those moments that we're feeling at peace, that can be a really good opportunity to dig more deeply and see what else is there. So again, with this client, they were showing up saying, everything's great, life's great. Okay, good. I'm glad life's great. Do you want to use this opportunity with me that is an opportunity to really clear up deep, long-standing issues? Or do you want to just tell me that life is great? Because what was wild was that there was this really profound issue that we were able to discover with relative ease about not feeling good enough, about not trusting oneself. And that was always there, figuring into every aspect of life. But in the meantime, life was good. Life was good. Life felt good. Why? Because we are able to acclimate to these really extreme conditions. And we acclimate to them so effectively that we don't even recognize that those conditions exist, because they're always ever present. And so rather than cruising, although sometimes it's nice to cruise to just get some relief, rather than just staying on the cruise, maybe we can take some excursions from the midst of the cruise to be able to explore more deeply what else might be there. That this is, that the opportunity is there. And when we're in a place of greater stability, that's a really good time to be able to dig more deeply. So Rosalind says, so Mira, how does one excavate when a client says there's no issues presently? What questions or modality uncovered that issue for the person? Can someone ask themselves a similar question? Yes. Thank you for asking that. I really, really appreciate that. I just have to check timing here because I'm not certain if I have to run immediately. No, I don't. Okay, so the inroads to these deeper places are looking at where you get triggered in life, or where there's something in life that you want to be different and it's persisting. So for instance, I was working on losing weight, and I was seeing all this stuff come up, like how what the scale wasn't changing. And when the scale did change, I saw myself go into a behavior where I'd eat more or whatever, and, shift the scale back. So I'd go up and down and up and down. And I recognized, oh, there's something going on here. What's going on? So I started inquiring into that in myself. And then as I was digging into the issue of weight, the weight was a symptom. All kinds of other stuff came up. What came up was sexuality, relationship, self-image, all kinds of other tendrils that all required my attention, but that I wouldn't have discovered if I hadn't looked at the symptom. So triggers, when we get triggered in life, if we pay attention to those triggers, even if we're able to talk ourselves off the ledge, recognizing that trigger is an inroad into some transformation that we can discover for ourselves. Another thing is if we go numb, if we recognize that we're just not present, that's another clue. The triggers are clues. The upsets are clues. The numbness is a clue. There are clues all over to say, hey, this is an area that you might want to explore more deeply. So Rosalind says, thank you. Paying attention to triggers are an inroad to transformation, 100%. And so what I say is that it's coming up because it's ready to be healed. If we pay attention, we might see the same kind of circumstances happening over and over. We might have similar altercations with a bunch of different people. We might have, we might be getting super impatient in the grocery line, like super impatient. Well, that discomfort that's something that we get to look at and say, okay, so what's going on here? You know, what, and sort of trace the threads without judgment, but if we can stand back and see what the behaviors are, what the reactions are, then we can follow those threads to find inroads into our own deeper growth and transformation. So rather than just cruising, right? Rather than just cruising. So that's it for this morning. And as always, I want to thank you for engaging with me in these explorations of ourselves, of our lives, of each other. And until next time, I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection. And I go live each weekday morning here on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel. And I encourage you to check out the other awesome programming on Enlightened World Network and Enlightened World Living. And until next time, so much love to you.